Welcome to Pub and Porch, Applied Stoicism in Modern Life, hosted by Adam Piercy and Mick Mulroy. Welcome back to Pub and Porch, Applied Stoicism. I'm your host, Adam, with my co-host, Mick Mulroy. Thanks for joining us again. This week, Mick and I will be finishing our conversation on selecting leaders and airing part 2 of that conversation. We didn't want to have too long of an episode for everybody last week, so we split this up into 2 parts, which is something we don't do a lot of, but we thought maybe it would be nicer for our audience if there was something a little more manageable in their podcast queue. So without further ado, Mick is going to take us away with the remainder of that conversation.
And I think there's 2 parts too, right? So you do want your positions to be represented. That's why you vote for people. But it's both they align with your positions. And as you know, I'm on the right side of the political spectrum.
Sure.
You're on the left, obviously. But then there's also the person, right? Right now, people seem to be totally willing, as long as they agree with them politically, to pick people who you wouldn't trust babysit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like at all, ever.
I know.
And I think it's twofold. Like, I think you can have really good people who are both left, right, and center.
Yeah.
We need to get people who are actually good people to be in all, whatever their political ideology is. And that's the problem. And if they can't just do it, which they obviously cannot, then I think, what I would push for is in my system, it would either be a law, an amendment to the Constitution, or some version of that. Because what I think is, I would obviously promote using Stoicism, so wisdom, justice, self-discipline. What's the last one? Justice, wisdom, courage, definitely courage. Right. But it has to it can't just say that, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, everybody does that. No, but that means you got to turn over all your stocks, not to keep harping on that, but that's a big issue, especially now. Most people that are in the stock market just have an index fund or something, right? So it's not like they have to have it. If they really have to have the ability to do day trading, then don't go into political office where you can hear insider stuff. So you can then go, essentially use your unavailable knowledge to enrich yourself. If that's really important for you, then stay outside, right? I think we should have term limitations for everybody that holds elective office. Why? That's service, right? That means it's service. It's like military service in the sense that in a lot of countries you have to go serve, but you don't have to do it for a career because you are doing something bigger than yourself, right? It's not like you could not want to be a career soldier, but you go, you do your time, in our system you could also do it as a AmeriCorps or Peace Corps or something, right? If you're not in the military. Yeah. So I think political leadership should be the same, but it should be at term limits. You come, it's good enough for the president, it should be good enough for the congressman from the 73rd district of California, that you have a certain amount of time, and you either go and you try to do, what best you can for the country, and then you go back and get a real job. But now we have careerists that stay in and somehow become the wealthiest people in society, taking a government paycheck, and it just doesn't jive. Right. And then we find out that they're, misogynists, sexual predators, all these other things that seem to be somehow now that these people in society have kind of migrated to public service, right? When it's supposed to be the opposite. Yeah. So I think we ought to have specific laws that say what you can and can't do, and because they're obviously not just going to do it on their own accord. And this is in the U.S., but it could be anywhere. And this is also, of course, at a time when we're not only seeing corruption go up around the world. If you look at the corruption index, because there's groups that keep track of this, right? Because when you're trying to do business overseas, that's a real problem. Yeah. I mean, if you have to pay off every official to do business in a country, oftentimes it's not profitable to do business in the country. Right. So in other countries, not the U.S., this affects their ability to actually build their own economy. Right. Because it's so corrupt that, they can't do outside business because of the level of graft from their elected officials
Yeah.
or people that aren't elected that are just in power.
Yeah.
So this is something I think is universal. And the only thing that seems to work is both the law to prevent it and the enforcement of the law.
Yeah.
And right now, at least in the US, it seems to be that you will be outraged about the other side's corruption, but accept yours. And until we get to the point is like, we're not going to accept corruption,
Yeah.
period. Then,
Right.
and this, and that's just, it's not just, self-enrichment. It's also people that are just not the type of people that we want. I mean,
Yeah.
people who cheat on their spouse, people who cheat on their business with their business partners, leave
Right.
people in the lurch. They go into business and they leave, they screw people over. They, just go down the list. Those are not. I mean, people make mistakes, right? I'm not
Yeah.
the person to sit up here and act like, everybody should be, Marcus Aurelius. But I mean, we got to have a standard. If you can't make it, then go find something else to do. And
Yeah.
leaders need to be leading by example. And that means they need to be what they tell their people they should be on work
Yeah.
ethic and all that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm lucky to live in a political situation where we are very multi-party, right? There are parties like federally in Canada, there are parties that are across the spectrum, right? And there are parties that are very location specific, right? Like there's Quebec and stuff like that. They have a party that's very specific to them and whatnot. But one thing I would say about being in a system like that is that it gives people the ability to choose within the spectrum, right? What better matches with them. I find what happens a lot in this discussion is that, people might not like the person, but they like the party. But it's then you sort of ask them why they like the party, and it's like, well, we're Republicans, and they kind of, or we're Democrats, and you go, what does that mean? As a Canadian, I struggled with that because I went to an American International School for high school, and people would say that, and I'd be like, "Oh, well, we don't. I don't think we classify ourselves like that, right?" And what I'm getting at is like there's this weird us versus them thing where you're not picking your party, you're not picking your elected officials based on just like data. Sometimes it feels like it's just because that's what your family does or that's what your
Yeah, like
community
a
does,
sports
and you kind
team.
of go, yeah, and you kind of just go, well, that's not, I don't think that's right at all. Like Socrates or Marcus or anybody like that within the Stoic world would always want you to think rationally about this, looking at
Every
evidence.
topic,
Yes, on
not
every
just
topic.
accept like this is what we think, so this is what you think. Like
Right.
talk about that not being wisdom. That's just
Totally.
like shut up and color,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah. And you get people who are like, I remember seeing some tweets about this or whatever, or some meme or something like that, where people are like, I never thought I would vote this way in my whole life, right? And I'm 65 and I'm now switching and voting that way. And you kind of go like, so what were you doing before? Like, were you okay with everything before? Like, were you okay with everything before? I think people have to ask themselves that. I think, unfortunately, though, there is some fatigue within society where people are like, oh, I need you guys to fix it. I feel like they kind of like, it's like,
but they don't it
it
fix
costs.
it.
What's
They
it?
don't, they
But
don't
they
fix
don't
it.
fix it.
In
No, they
fact,
don't fix it.
they
Like,
campaign on it not being fixed. So
yeah,
like if
I
you look
know.
at the immigration issue in the United States, it's almost like both sides want to keep it kind of screwed up because both sides use it to stay elected and to raise money. It's
Right.
just one example, right? Whereas if you were hired to do a job and you haven't passed an immigration bill in 15 years, I just made that up. I don't know how long.
Okay.
You get the point. It's like you're not doing your job. So I don't care if
Yeah.
you have an opinion about immigration if you
Right.
can't bring it together to actually do something. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is a posture, not a political position. You posture so you can raise money based on the outrage of whatever thought side. You see what I mean? Like you
Right.
could be far on the left and think everybody should be allowed to come to the United States for some reason, even though no
Yeah.
country in the world does that. Or you could be far on the right and think that only people who look exactly like you should be able to come to the United States
Right.
and ignore the fact that most of our most innovative people, unfortunately or fortunately, are immigrants,
Right.
right? They
Yeah.
or first generation. Like if you look at all the like major innovations,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Look.
that's me getting into a political position. But the point being is we
Yeah.
need good people, right? Whether you're left or right, being the people that come in that actually want to get the job done. And
Right.
if they don't, get out. Term
Yeah.
limits. Go find another
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. No, the term limits thing is an interesting one, right? Because we have an appointed member group in our legislative assembly here, the Senate, and
Yeah.
there's been interesting talks about that. Now, the Senate it doesn't operate in the same way here. The House of Commons is really our primary legislative body, but term limits are an interesting one that I hear coming up all the time. And I mean, the thing is, I'm kind of for that, right? Or sorry, I'm not kind of for that. I am for term limits, but not because I'm angry about anything, but just because it makes sense, right? Like we have to remember that society 100 years ago was changing generationally every 50 years, and now society seems to be changing every 10 years. Like you will have someone be out of their element, right? And I think, you have to start looking at this where you go, oh, that's something where we should probably, revisit that. But, what I would say to my fellow Canadians, though, is for sure, like, you have to look at a wide array of issues. Like the National Broadcasting Corporation here in Canada, which is the CBC, they do, for example, for every major election cycle, they'll do a where do you fit on the spectrum thing. And it's very objective, but they will tell you, and I can tell you, there have been times where I've been more on the way deep left side, and there have been times where I'm actually on the right side of the spectrum. It depends on the electorate year, right? But I think people have to continually kind of look at that and say, is this really what I want to look at? Is this really the person I want, reflecting me? Is this what I want to see reflected in the people who are leading us forward? Because the interesting thing about, and these really aren't democracies, let's be honest, because we don't all vote on every issue all the time, right? It's democratic, but it is, it's either a republic or in my case, it's a constitutional monarchy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
You got
the
a
thing is
representative democracy because we simply
represent,
can't
yeah,
vote on everything.
exactly. And you're in that circumstance where you have to ask yourself, like, what do I want to see, as opposed to this is how I want
Right,
this is how I
but
want
you're
it to
talking
look.
specifically about policy issues, and I guess I was too. But my
Yeah,
point is, um, we need anybody who's doing policy to have a firm ethical foundation, whether
absolutely.
you're Bernie Sanders or John McCain. Just to use, I think Bernie Sanders. I mean, I don't agree with him, but I think he's ethical.
Yeah,
For example. And I think John McCain, although he's passed, is obviously on the right. I'm just using that, but the point
yeah,
being
yeah,
is it's not about their positions; it's about their character. Like we need people of character,
yes,
regardless of what political position they hold, to be
yeah,
in office. And that means you got to start somewhere because they're not going to teach them a course before they go to to Congress or in your
yeah.
case, the Parliament. You
No,
got
I
to
agree
start
with
in
that.
school.
But I think there's a connection there, though, right? Like there's a connection, like if you're picking people that are reflecting a good ethical base, then some of these things that we're all kind of angry about right now are not going to happen, right? So it's
Yeah.
still, and the policies that they're doing are going to reflect that, right? Like you can be, I don't call myself a socialist all the time. I actually more align as a social capitalist. I believe in business. I'm a Keynesian, if you would think about it, where I like a mix of government and private sector. But the thing is, when I vote for somebody, I want their ethics to be good, but I want that also to be reflected with good policies that come out of those ethics. So I think my thing is, I think they're connected. Like you're not going to have someone who's morally corrupt, writing policies that give tax breaks to the bottom 30% and initiate a brand new, amnesty program on post secondary education loans, right? It's just those things are almost anathema to each other. So I think it's kind of both. You need to selecting someone based on their character, on their ethics is absolutely important, and that should show in what their policy decisions are. That's what I would say. Sorry, I have
So
something
what
to say.
I'm so what I'm advocating for is whether you're on the left or the right or center or whatever,
Yeah,
that you hold whoever you're going to vote for that aligns with your policies to a high standard for ethical character. So you can be conservative or liberal and still be an ethical person.
yeah,
But what we're doing now, and I could go through examples here that are really make it obvious, is we're picking people who have serious ethical issues just because they agree with your policy positions.
yeah,
And we're overlooking the character flaws that exist on people that are both on the far. We've got people who were literally impeached for unethical stuff that are now running for Senate and were nominated. We have people who had a swastika basically on their chest and said, "Oh yeah, well, okay, whatever," or said things like, "Ladies are responsible for their own sexual assault,"
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they go, "Oh well, he agrees with me, so I'll overlook that," even though they'd be completely outraged if that person
Yeah.
was on the other side of the political spectrum. You see what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah. I
you're
do.
cool with it or you overlook it because he agrees with you politically, you're accepting very flawed people running the government. That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't have to do with the policy. It has to do with the character. You of course are going to vote for people who agree with your policy. So am I. But you should start with the standard that the person is ethical, because we're not. We have dramatically unethical people just being voted into office simply because people believe with their political positions. And
Yeah.
that's the failing. They're
Mm-hmm.
all using it to gain their money for their own benefit.
Right.
All, not everybody in Congress, right? I don't want to sound
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
raging against the machine here, but
Yeah.
it is an issue that I think has hit a point where we don't have to agree on issues necessarily. I mean, it's a
Right.
democracy, so right, so we don't have to literally, but
Yeah.
we should all agree that the people making those decisions and representing us represent ethical people, and that's not what the case is. That's what I'm saying. It
Yeah.
doesn't, like,
I'm
you
with
can
you.
be an ethical person and believe in lower taxes and smaller government,
I
or an
agree.
ethical person and believe in larger government and more taxes.
Yes. And I
Yeah,
think that what will happen, what I think the future of that will start to shape the fact where the policies will reflect that, but there'll be ethical policies that do that, right? And I think that's what I would like to see more coming up. But you're right. Initially selecting someone based on whether or not they align with what you want is not the same thing as picking the right person. I would agree with that,
what you're
right?
calling ethical policies are what you believe in.
Yeah,
But
I
what
agree.
I'm saying is we can disagree on policy, and they both can be ethical. But
Yes.
if we don't have the underlying ethical people doing it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there was
Mm-hmm.
a time when, the famous, Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, right? So it was a leader of the Republican Party and the leader of he was a Speaker of the House, and they would go out and get a beer together. Like, I don't do
Yeah.
that anymore. Like if people did that on, at least in our system, they'd be run
Mm-hmm.
out of office as if they were like cavorting with the enemy. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's and then both of them under our system have the opportunity to be really corrupt.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. We have to, if we can't agree on policy, and that's fine. That's just what democracies are. And then you just, have it out
Yes.
philosophically at least, and you vote,
Yes.
and then it happens. But if we don't have that basic core line character, which you gotta teach, you gotta teach,
Yeah.
um, and if we're going to teach, I mean, we're obviously failing on the core, like reading, writing, and arithmetic. We need to get back to that and innovation, but we need to also teach that character, and
Yeah.
it needs to be like in a school um, that advances every year, where kids
Mm-hmm.
actually and it resets what they think. We both live in a capitalist society. Obviously, success in business is viewed as a positive, which is fine. It's great. I don't have any problem with
Yeah.
that at all. But
And
you
how you
also
do
need
that.
ethics there too.
Yeah, how you do that is the key thing there, I think,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Like I don't, I want to see people succeed in that way by also elevating others around them. Making a lot of money by squashing people down. This does not that to me is unethical and it's not right, and that doesn't fall within my value system. And I don't and I
yeah,
think people have to ask themselves again that, like, does this person reflect the ethics and values of me and what I think should be in a leader like this.
yeah.
So
Leaders again are across the board. It's not just
yeah,
politics. Politics
yeah,
is.
yeah, exactly.
But I do have a quote. Well, actually, let me tell you a story, because when I was talking about how to be great, you got to be good. So I was reading this story the other day. This married couple that just got married. It was in Virginia, I think, and they were taking a road to try to get to where they were going to go to their honeymoon. Right? It's a long time ago,
Yeah,
and the new wife was like, why don't we just take the road we know and go down the ones that paved? And the husband's like, no, it'll take too long. And you can see where this is going. Went down a dirt road and it was raining and slid off the road. And now couples are already arguing. First marital argument, just got married, probably dragging the can, that says just married behind them.
Yeah.
And this farmer come up and said, hey, I see you guys got some problems. He's wearing overalls. And so they kind of quieted down because, obviously they're embarrassed they're arguing in front of this man.
Yeah.
And the man gets his tractor, he pulls the car out and he's looking at they could just drive off. And he's like telling them like, you need to go get the car checked. You banged it up pretty good. So you get out of here, you take a left, take a right. And there's a garage and the guy's name's Fred. Tell Fred, you need to talk to him about checking out your car. And they're still kind of arguing. So he's actually, why don't you guys just come up to the house and have dinner with me and the missus, or had lunch with me and the missus.
Yeah.
All right. So they do. And here's a couple who has been married 40 years, right? 50 years. And there's a couple just got married, 5 hours ago. Right. And so they have this long conversation about like life, right? Ups and downs, like any life, not just marriages, but you have your high points, your low points. And it's part of it is just like choosing each other every time. Right. So this is a story about marriage in a way, right? Which we're going to do a whole episode on. But anyway, so they learn what they learn. They have their little sandwiches and then they go back to the car and they give them sandwiches and cookies to go. And then they go get to Fred and Fred goes, oh, where'd you get in an accident? He said, yeah, we got an accident. There's a nice old couple had us for lunch. He said, well, where exactly? And he said, well, right at this road. And he goes, well, you know who that nice old couple was, don't you? No, because that's President Eisenhower, Mimi Eisenhower.
Wow.
Think about that. Do you think that would happen today? Do you think they would, somebody in that, and he was a former, right? So he'd already retired and went to a former.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't because everybody would recognize him, right? But
sure,
this couple was younger and he'd been out of office for plenty of time. But
yeah,
the point being is like, you got to be remembered as a great leader. Those stories like that will be what people really glom onto. Yes, they'll remember he won D-Day. And if you haven't seen the movie Pressure, it came out yesterday. Excellent.
Right.
It started a little shaky for me because it was not portraying Ike in the way I thought he should be, but it ends strong, dude. Like it's good. But like, yes, Eisenhower, he'll be remembered for winning D-Day and liberating Nazi Europe, right?
Yes.
But he'll also be remembered from the guy who took time out of his day to help a young couple in life, right? Not asking for anything. Certainly wouldn't think this story would be repeated in a podcast, 40 years later or whatever it is. That's the kind of people we need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one more point on him that I think really exemplifies what a Stoic leader is. If you're not familiar with it, they depicted in the movie, Eisenhower wrote 2 letters the eve before D-Day.
Yes.
One was for victory, and he gave 100% of the reason for that victory to the soldiers and sailors and airmen Marines that fought from multiple countries, including yours, obviously Great Britain, to liberate Europe. 100% of the credit goes to them. Failure. 100% of the failure he accepted.
Yeah.
He wrote the letter already before it even happened, and he already gave it away. And if we win or this is successful, this is what you use. This is not successful. This is what he did. And he tendered his resignation.
Right.
That's a leader. We don't see that anymore. We don't see that at all. We 100% would see that leader blame it on somebody else if it failed.
Yeah.
So our leader of the day is Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Totally agree. Yes, I have heard the story of the D-Day letters. Also, I'll be very Canadian and say Brendan Fraser's Canadian, who played Eisenhower in that movie, right? It's very Canadian to go, oh, that guy's Canadian.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I know. It's rare, right? It's rare. But I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
you know, I recently met my new team, right? I'm a new director, and I recently met my new team, and I told them at some point, I said, look, here's how this is going to go. When everything's going well, it's you guys. When everything is, if anything ever doesn't go well, it's on me, right? And that's how you have to take it.
That's one of the main principles of Stoic leadership right there.
Yes, it is. Right there. Well, let's close with that thought. Thank you for that story, Mick. That's a great story about you know, that sort of quiet leadership and, you know, the quiet personality that Ike had. But let's leave it there and move on. But thank you, everybody, for listening. We'd love to hear from you. info@pubandporch.com. Leave a comment, you know, like, subscribe, whatever you would like to do for us. But until next time, cheers, Mick.
Sláinte. Thank you for listening to the Pub and Porch podcast. If you'd like to find out more about the podcast or its host, head over to pubandporch.com, and you can listen to all our episodes on Spotify, Apple, or whichever platform you prefer. And if you'd like to help out with the podcast, you can find us on Patreon. Drop us an email if you have a comment on any past episode, you have a suggestion for future episodes, or you have an essay on an important topic for Stoicism. Send it to us, and then we can be reached at info@pubandporch.com. Today's music was provided by bensound.com. Until next time, Pub and Porch out.